Toshio Okada's shocking prediction for the future, spoken at a Doshisha University lecture in 2011. We may never work for our entire lives. These words are now becoming a reality. Even if 200 students enroll in a vocational school for anime and manga, only 3 will become professionals. The remaining 197 will have their dreams shattered and be cast out into society. However, Okada says this is not an individual problem. The system itself is broken. With an employment rate of 61%, it's an era where 40% of graduates cannot find jobs. Parents and teachers say, if you try hard enough, you'll manage. But they have never experienced a world where 40% cannot find employment. The moment Google started offering free website creation services, the jobs of tens of thousands of web designers vanished. Thanks to Amazon, the used bookstores in front of universities were devastated. In exchange for convenience, a massive number of unemployed individuals are created. Okada points out that this is the essence of technology. Toshio Okada, who spoke about this in 2011. What would he think if he saw today's AI era? The future of creators is also our future.
Even if you go to a specialized school for anime, games, or manga, saying that only 3 out of 200 are successful is quite optimistic, Mrs. Okada. They call it impressive. This is the reality. So, what about the remaining 197 out of 200? They can't become professionals. Then, those who couldn't become professionals end up wasting 4 years, making their parents pay 1.4 million yen for 4 years of tuition. Incredibly, one feels inadequate, and although the sense of frustration and despair might be exaggerated, you have to suppress those disappointments. This is incorrect, isn't it? It's not a system where only 3 out of 200 succeed. There isn't any such setup. In which world do only 3 out of 200 students at a driving school exist? It doesn't happen. This means that a university was originally meant for studying, not specifically to become a creator. You could say it that way, but the mechanism or system for becoming a professional creator is strange. Things have become odd, and while such mechanisms may not exist, we should definitely notice them. We should question the system. That's the first point. The second point is that about 8 years ago, I wrote an essay about other professionals' perspectives on relationships. The thesis on professional relationships discusses love, marriage, and parenting. This is somewhat of a rare book for me. In it, I discuss how the system of love and marriage determines things. The system of romantic marriage decides. When I mention this, I recall seriously talking to a girl in front of students about a year before the sun rose. This girl continued to get along with her current boyfriend and ended up marrying him. And as for me, I won't do New Year's, so I declared the system, but it didn't get acknowledged. That's because the hurdle for marriage is currently this high. People have the misconception that you can't financially pursue love and marriage separately. That's my belief. Putting it that way, people end up making incredible judgments about their first love. But currently, there's something called the rate of never marrying, which indicates that over 40% of people live their lives without ever marrying. In the near future, this is expected to approach 50%. What does that mean? It means we are entering an era where ordinary people don't marry. Until now, the rate of never marrying was around 15% to 20%. Still, recently, an increasing number of people are choosing not to marry. Not marrying is now considered normal. It's common to hear about 6 or 7 not marrying. The rate of never marrying is exactly that. It's fine if one never marries. But from now on, if the rate exceeds 40%, it would be similar to how the adoption rate of computers surpassed 25%, becoming mainstream. I think that once 30% of people want to pursue a certain system but can't, the social system will collapse rapidly. So, the unmarried disability rate refers to people who don't really want to get married. I don't think that 40% of people feel that way. Rather, it's that they would like to get married if they had the opportunity. But they can't. I wonder why. It's similar to what was just said about creators. 60% of people somehow manage to get married. However, once they marry, they fall into the unmarried disability rate category. Even if they get married, they become part of the success stories. As a result, 40% of people can't get married even once. That's what this society, has determined about the marriage system. I believe that's evidence of how things are. Now, regarding the employment rate. This is a daily news segment from Kansai, specifically the news from August 8th. In Kansai News, looking at the college graduation rate, 107,000 people. The employment rate is 61.6%, according to a Ministry of Education survey. In other words, only 61% of graduates end up getting employed. This includes those who go on to graduate school. And those who get jobs after attending some graduate school. What this means is that people in our society want to get employed since they go to university in order to improve their living conditions. Yet, despite that desire to find employment, people are seriously job hunting amidst the employment ice age, and about 40% of them end up unable to find a job in this society. This means it's no longer just a matter of individual effort. Perhaps the parents' generation or the generation of uncles, brothers, and sisters experienced a time when if you worked hard, you could manage. So I think it's incredibly difficult for them now. Currently, for those who are involved in job hunting, what I'm trying to say is, it's about someone I respect. It could be a parent, a teacher, or someone like a senior, if you ask them. Everyone won't try unless we all push through together. But in a world where 40% of people can't find jobs, no one in today's Japanese society has experienced that. We're living in such a society. That's how it is. As I mentioned earlier, there are people who want to do something but can't. I think when it exceeds 30%, this society will collapse rapidly. We are living in such days of society. And today, I would like to share this plan. I have roughly divided it into 3 parts. 1. Employment is obsolete. It is indeed obsolete. I just first heard this about a month ago. I don't really know slang like from 2CH, but it's already a dead content, I guess. In other words, it no longer holds value. That's why I think the very concept of employment is already obsolete. Secondly, why did this happen? There is a deeper reason. It is that money itself is becoming obsolete. The monetary economy is slowly coming to an end. This does not mean that money won't be valid anymore. But it's not impossible. It's not impossible. So far, it's been pressurefully strong. The money that used to be the ultimate average has become really unusable. To put it simply, when something expands, it's still usable, but the more violence there is. Let's create a responsive homepage and advertising site service. When you register for Google My Business Online, within about 15 minutes, and that page can turn out quite stylish. Of course, it's not as cool as something ordered from a professional. It's not something that has great taste, rather it's safe, but it can be done without. In other words, it's like Uniqlo. It's not a designer's plan that's sharply defined or someone with exceptional fashion sense. But if you buy randomly at Uniqlo and mix things up, it's presentable, right? Fashion can actually be done sufficiently that way, and after that, it's up to the individual. The pages that can be created with Google My Business Online are just at the level of being presentable like Uniqlo. And after that, it depends on the content, what you decide to put inside. This can be done. Well, it can be done as long as it's possible. However, right now in Japan, the cost of website production. If you say you will create a website, a page for your company, there are hundreds or thousands of companies taking those jobs. So what will happen to those people? The moment Google announced something called Google My Business Online, the value of those jobs will become zero. Because Google offers something of reasonable content for free, no matter how much they try to sell it, we think about something better, something glossier, something with character. There's no way to compete with mere power. When everyone orders and works, it's not like, oh, we saw that stylish page, let's place an order. First, I'll look at Google and make it for free in that case. Then I'll proceed to do it in various places and let them make it. When I call for that, I end up calling 3 or 4 companies. So, how much will you charge? 100,000 yen per page. For Google, how much do you charge? 50,000 yen per page. How much do you charge? 10,000 yen per page. Here, the price competition rivals have disappeared. There's no way such a business can succeed. Google has done something amazing. They started a service to create websites for free. I think there are probably tens of thousands of small businesses in Japan. This is the essence of the network. The Hyperinformation Society, the Code Information Society. It's also an era of code entrepreneurs. Something new is starting in the network, and our lives are becoming more convenient. I often use Amazon as an example. There is an online bookstore called Amazon. Books can be sold within this range. We have become very convenient because of this as well. In the past, there were many used bookstores around schools like Toshio University. The reason there were so many used bookstores is that books were hard to come by. Famous books that used to be sold somewhere in the past. Now, publishers hardly publish those books. Used books and various books were sold, which led to many used bookstores in front of any university. But now, if you look around Toshio University, there are hardly any left. The reason is that something like Amazon has emerged. Thanks to that, everyone can find both old and new books from the internet. Of course, it can't compete with the expert level bookstores. You can't do that on Amazon. The expert level people find really good books, find them in great condition, and they arrange them in the front corners. I can't do that, but Amazon offers incredibly low prices, which also pits sellers against each other, and even sells used books. As a result, over the course of 1 or 2 years, even established used bookstores have gradually started to fade away. Now, used bookstores have disappeared from in front of universities all over Japan. Amazon enriches our lives. Just a little. The power of digital, the power of networks. Concerning the information society, our lives become just a bit richer. In exchange, tens of thousands lose their jobs. This is unfolding slowly all over Japan. And it's not just about the network. It's the same with 100 yen shops. And it's the same with outlet malls, right? We can get various things now, which we could only buy at low prices before, now come in at 30% off. Until then, we had umbrellas that were available, sold at pharmacies and other places, with only 350 yen umbrellas, for 100 yen umbrellas, but now they are available for 100 yen or 300 yen off, making them very affordable. Our lives have become much more convenient because of this, in exchange for that convenience. Unfortunately, in Japan, the number of unemployed people has increased, and there are no jobs available for cake makers. Now, regarding the fundamental issue of employment, it is because our lives, through networks, have slowly become convenient. Our lives and the rise in unemployment in our society are indeed related. So, with that in mind, to IT companies like Google, keiki ikerishushuga naijongtekesna, ano onagunbun hafokato iuto. Fudachi no shunho ga netawaku ni yote, yukuri benli gatsui takaradest. Fudachi no shunho mo benli sato. Fudachi no shurhui no hinu no sangshunto wa. Shan togon shi ga aru. Ja,そういうですね。Google みたいな IT しのチエに